You know that moment when someone in a meeting asks what seems like the most basic question possible? Everyone exchanges those little glances. Poor thing, they're clearly lost. So you patiently explain the obvious, feeling helpful and maybe a tiny bit superior. Here's what just happened while you were busy being the smart one in the room. That confused person wasn't confused at all. They understood your point 3 sentences before you finished making it. But while you were explaining, they learned how you think, what you prioritize, where your blind spots hide, and exactly what kind of person you become when you believe you're the expert. You just got played by an INFJ running the most elegant psychological operation you'll ever encounter. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the smartest people in the room often appear the most clueless. And if you're an INFJ watching this, you'll finally have words for the strategy you've been running your entire life. But here's the thing. Most people think this is just a defense mechanism. They're wrong. Most people miss this next detail, but it changes everything about how you view your own intelligence. This isn't weakness. This is weaponized psychology. Before we start, please hit the like button, comment, and subscribe so you won't miss any of our weekly deep dives into the world of personality types. And if you're looking for a deeper understanding of yourself and your INFJ personality, browse our favorite INFJ products in the description, and click the link in the comments to take our favorite free personality test. The Safety Buffer Protocol: Why Smart People Play Dumb. Intelligence makes you a target. Not in some dramatic movie villain way, but in the everyday social dynamics that most people don't even notice they're participating in. When you're obviously the smartest person in the room, people start performing around you instead of being authentic. They filter their words. They present polished versions of their thoughts. They compete with you instead of collaborating. They hide their mistakes because they don't want to look foolish in front of the expert. You end up with surface-level interactions and carefully curated information. INFJs figured out something crucial early on. If you broadcast your intelligence too loudly, you lose access to genuine human behavior. People put on masks when they think they're being evaluated by someone intellectually superior. But when they think they're helping someone who's a little lost, the masks come off completely. Now, everything I've just told you about staying hidden won't work if you don't understand the lion and the gazelle protocol. This next step will literally change how you walk into a room. This is the predator study principle in action. You can't observe authentic behavior if your subjects know they're being watched and analyzed. A lion studying gazelles has to stay downwind and hidden. An INFJ studying human nature has to appear harmless and slightly confused. Think about the quiet team member who asks those seemingly innocent questions during project meetings. Wait, can someone walk me through that timeline again? I want to make sure I understand. While everyone else is rolling their eyes internally and patiently re-explaining, that person is actually preventing a disaster they spotted 20 minutes ago. They're not asking because they don't understand the timeline. They're asking because they notice the timeline is impossible. But they know that saying, "This won't work," creates defensiveness and conflict. Instead, they guide the group toward discovering the problem themselves through careful questioning. By the time the meeting ends, everyone feels good about catching that potential issue together. Nobody realizes the confused person orchestrated the entire revelation. They protected the project, avoided confrontation, and maintained their reputation as someone safe and non-threatening. It's one thing to spot a disaster, but it's another thing entirely to fix it without anyone knowing you were there. Now, this next part is where things get interesting. This strategy serves another crucial purpose for INFJs. It protects their sensitive nature from the overwhelming intensity of constant social analysis. When you naturally notice every micro-expression, every emotional undercurrent, every hidden agenda in a room, you need buffer space to process all that information. The naive persona creates psychological breathing room. It allows them to acknowledge what they choose to acknowledge and file away what they choose to ignore, without having to explain their selective attention to anyone. Sorry, I wasn't really following that part. Becomes a socially acceptable way to avoid engaging with someone's manipulative behavior until they decide how to handle it. People reveal their authentic selves only when they don't feel judged by an intellectual equal. The INFJ's apparent simplicity creates the perfect conditions for this revelation. While others are busy proving how smart they are, the INFJ is quietly becoming the most informed person in the room through the simple act of appearing not to be. This isn't manipulation. It's sophisticated social navigation in a world that often punishes genuine insight and rewards comfortable ignorance. The INFJ learned that being underestimated is infinitely more useful than being overestimated. While everyone else fights for recognition, they're building comprehensive understanding of every dynamic at play. The beautiful irony? By appearing to know less, they end up knowing exponentially more than anyone who needs to broadcast their intelligence. They're playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers, and nobody even realizes there's a game happening. Most people use questions to get answers. The INFJ uses them as a scalpel. But there is a specific way to phrase these that prevents people from ever getting defensive, and it's the secret to the Socratic takedown. The Socratic takedown. Questions as weapons. INFJs have perfected something I call the Socratic takedown. They can dismantle entire arguments, expose flawed logic, and change someone's mind completely, using nothing but innocent questions. Watch this psychological surgery in action. Someone confidently declares, "We should definitely go with option A. It's clearly the best choice." The INFJ tilts their head slightly. "Oh, interesting. Can you help me understand why? I'm not sure I'm seeing what you're seeing." Notice what just happened. No confrontation. No, you're wrong. Just genuine curiosity that invites explanation. The person feels smart and helpful as they elaborate on their reasoning. That makes sense, the INFJ nods thoughtfully. And what about the budget constraints? How does that work with the timeline? They're not confused about budget constraints. They spotted the financial impossibility immediately. But by asking rather than stating, they're guiding the person toward their own discovery. The original advocate explains again, now slightly less confident. The INFJ maintains that patient, slightly puzzled expression. "Right, sorry, I'm still a bit confused about the resource allocation part. Could you walk me through that section?" 10 minutes later, the person has talked themselves into realizing option A is terrible. They think it was their own brilliant insight to abandon it. The INFJ never once said, "You're wrong," or made a single declarative statement about the plan's flaws. They simply created space for the truth to emerge naturally. This is surgical level precision disguised as genuine confusion. The INFJ spotted every weakness in the argument within the first 30 seconds. But by asking questions instead of making accusations, they accomplished something remarkable. They let the other person discover the problems themselves, which means no defensiveness, no ego bruising, no relationship damage. You might think the goal is just to win the argument. It's not. This next detail is the difference between winning a debate and controlling the entire narrative. Questions don't create enemies. Statements do. "You're wrong about this" triggers fight or flight responses. "Can you help me understand?" triggers teaching mode. And when people are in teaching mode, they over-explain, reveal their thought processes, and often stumble into their own logical contradictions. The genius here is that the INFJ maintains their reputation as someone who's just trying to learn, while simultaneously gathering intelligence about how this person thinks, whether they can handle being wrong gracefully, and what happens to their reasoning under gentle pressure. Meanwhile, everyone watching thinks the INFJ is asking helpful, clarifying questions. Nobody realizes they just witnessed a masterclass in changing someone's mind without them knowing it happened. The person who originally pushed for option A will probably spend the rest of the day feeling good about their wise decision to pivot to a better solution. This technique works because it bypasses the psychological defenses that activate when someone feels intellectually threatened. Direct challenges trigger protective responses. Curious questions trigger collaborative responses. The INFJ learned early that teaching someone is infinitely more effective than correcting them. But here's the deeper layer. While guiding someone through this process of self-discovery, the INFJ is also conducting a comprehensive psychological evaluation. How does this person react when their ideas are questioned? Do they get defensive, or do they engage thoughtfully? Can they admit when they're wrong? Do they give credit to others, or try to claim all insights as their own? By the end of one seemingly innocent conversation, the INFJ has gathered enough behavioral data to predict how this person will handle future challenges, conflicts, and collaborative situations. They've identified character strengths and weaknesses that most people would take months to discover through normal interaction. The person walks away feeling heard, respected, and intellectually validated. They have no idea they just underwent a thorough assessment that revealed more about their thinking patterns than a formal psychological evaluation would uncover. This is why INFJs can seem to have supernatural insight into human nature. They're not reading minds. They're creating optimal conditions for people to reveal their minds voluntarily. The naive questioning persona is simply the most effective tool they've found for accessing authentic human psychology without triggering defensive barriers. Questions are their scalpel. Curiosity is their anesthetic. And by the time the operation is complete, everyone feels better than when it started. Up until now, we've talked about conversations. But now we need to talk about the file. This next part is where the INFJ mind becomes truly formidable. The data collection phase, building psychological profiles. Every conversation with an INFJ is them building a comprehensive file on you. That sounds sinister when I put it that way, but it's actually just extreme attentiveness paired with exceptional memory, wrapped in strategic patience. While you're focused on the immediate conversation, the INFJ is playing a much longer game. They're not just listening to what you're saying right now. They're connecting it to what you said 3 months ago, cross-referencing it with how you behaved in that stressful situation last year, and filing it alongside the pattern they've noticed about how you react when you feel cornered. You mentioned once, just once, that you get anxious when people change plans at the last minute. 6 months later, when the INFJ is organizing a group event, they've already built in buffer time and backup options specifically to accommodate your anxiety pattern. You don't even remember telling them about your planning stress. They do, and they've been factoring it into their decision-making ever since. This isn't just good listening. This is systematic intelligence gathering disguised as casual friendship. The INFJ, who appears to barely follow complex conversations, is actually running sophisticated behavioral analysis in real time. They're noting what topics make you defensive, which compliments you're fishing for, how your voice changes when you're not being entirely truthful. The naive persona encourages people to over-explain everything. When someone thinks you're not quite keeping up, they provide extra context, reveal their reasoning process, share the background information they'd normally keep private. "Let me break this down for you" becomes an invitation to expose their entire thought architecture. While appearing distracted or slightly confused, INFJs are cataloging emotional triggers, identifying core values, mapping relationship dynamics, and building predictive models of how each person in their orbit will respond to different situations. They notice who interrupts whom, who defers to who gets uncomfortable when certain topics arise. The database effect is staggering. Over months and years of interactions, INFJs accumulate behavioral data that would make a professional psychologist jealous. They understand causality in your life better than you do. They can predict your reactions with eerie accuracy because they've been studying you like their doctoral thesis. Here's what makes this particularly powerful. People show their authentic selves only when they don't feel judged by an intellectual equal. The moment someone realizes they're being analyzed by a sharp mind, they start filtering, performing, hiding their genuine responses. But when they think they're helping someone who's a little slow to catch on, complete authenticity. The INFJ asking, "Wait, can you explain that again?" isn't confused about your explanation. They're creating an opportunity for you to reveal how you think when you believe you're in teaching mode rather than defensive mode. The additional details you provide, the way you structure your thoughts, the assumptions you make about what needs clarification, it all becomes data. This information gathering serves multiple strategic purposes. In professional settings, it allows INFJs to anticipate problems before they manifest. They know which team members will clash under pressure, Which clients will become difficult when things don't go perfectly? Which managers will throw subordinates under the bus when questioned by higher-ups? In personal relationships, this accumulated knowledge becomes the foundation for deep emotional support. The INFJ, who's been quietly collecting data on you for years, becomes the friend who knows exactly what you need before you ask. They understand your patterns, your triggers, your unspoken fears, and your hidden strengths. But here's the crucial element that separates this from manipulation. INFJs use this knowledge primarily to help, to support, to navigate relationships more skillfully. They're not gathering intelligence to exploit weaknesses. They're building understanding to create more harmonious interactions and prevent unnecessary conflicts. The memory advantage cannot be overstated. While most people forget the details of casual conversations, INFJs remember everything. Your offhand comment about hating micromanagement gets filed away. That time you got weird when someone mentioned Boston gets noted and archived. The way you always deflect when asked about your family gets understood and respected. Years later, when circumstances require careful handling, the INFJ has a complete psychological profile to work from. They know exactly how to approach you, what language will resonate, which arguments will persuade, and which topics to avoid entirely. This isn't mind reading. It's the natural result of paying attention while everyone else assumes you're not. Knowing the past is one thing. Predicting the future is another. Now, everything I have just told you will not work if you don't know this next step. It's how the INFJ knows what you'll do before you do it. The strategic reveal, when the mask drops. There comes a moment, rare and powerful, when an INFJ stops pretending. When circumstances force them to show their full capability. When someone pushes too far, or when someone finally earns complete trust. The transformation is staggering. That person who seemed to barely follow complex conversations suddenly articulates insights that make experts pause. They connect dots nobody else saw. They reveal they've understood the entire situation, every nuance, every hidden factor, from the very beginning. Wait, you knew this whole time? Always. They always knew. I've watched this happen, and it's like watching Clark Kent become Superman. The mild-mannered persona evaporates, and you're suddenly face-to-face with someone operating on an entirely different level. Someone who's been holding back, dumbing down, playing small, and who's now letting you see what they're actually capable of. The reveal serves multiple strategic purposes. Sometimes it's perfectly timed for maximum impact. The INFJ has been quietly gathering intelligence for months, waiting for the exact moment when their insight will carry the most weight. When the crisis hits and everyone's scrambling, they calmly present a solution that accounts for variables nobody else even noticed. Sometimes it's protective. When someone mistakes kindness for weakness, when they assume the quiet person won't fight back, the INFJ shows their teeth. The sudden display of intellectual firepower serves as a warning. I've been choosing to appear harmless. Don't make me choose differently. Sometimes it's simply trust. I'm going to be real with you now because you've earned it. After months or years of careful observation, the INFJ decides this person can handle their unfiltered intelligence without weaponizing it against them or making them regret the vulnerability. But make no mistake, when an INFJ shows you their unmasked capability, it's a gift. They spend most of their life hiding that part of themselves because people can't handle it, don't appreciate it, or use it against them. Showing you means something profound about how they see you and the relationship. The accumulated advantage becomes clear in these moments. Years of underestimation create the perfect setup for strategic moves that seem to come from nowhere. The INFJ who appeared confused during budget meetings suddenly presents a financial analysis that saves the company millions. The friend who never seemed to understand relationship drama suddenly offers advice that untangles years of complicated dynamics. How did they know? They've been collecting data while everyone else was performing. They've been studying the chessboard while others were arguing about individual pieces. They've been building comprehensive understanding while maintaining the perfect cover of apparent simplicity. The relationship shift is permanent once this happens. You can't unsee someone's true capability. The dynamic changes forever because now you know. The person you thought you were helping actually understands more than you do. The individual you assumed was struggling has been several steps ahead the entire time. Some people handle this revelation gracefully. They feel honored to have witnessed the real person behind the mask. They understand they've been granted access to something rare and valuable. These are the people who get to see the INFJ's authentic self more often going forward. Others don't handle it well. They feel foolish, manipulated, or threatened by the sudden display of intelligence they never saw coming. If you mock them for it, use it against them, or make them regret being authentic, the mask goes back up permanently. You'll never see the real them again. You'll get the polite, pleasant, perpetually naive version for the rest of your relationship. The INFJ decides who gets access to their depths. They control the reveal completely. They choose the timing, the circumstances, and the audience based on years of careful observation and strategic calculation. But what happens when the mask isn't enough? This next part is where things get interesting. Because when the mask drops, there is no going back. Warning signs that an INFJ is about to drop the act? They start asking fewer questions and making more statements. Their language becomes more precise and technical. They stop seeking clarification and start providing it. The shift is subtle but unmistakable once you know what to look for. The calculated risk is always present. Revealing true capability means losing the strategic advantage of being underestimated. Once people know what you're capable of, they start watching more carefully, filtering their behavior, treating you as the intellectual equal you've always been. But sometimes, the moment demands authenticity over strategy. Sometimes, the situation requires their full intelligence rather than their protective persona. And when that moment comes, the INFJ drops the mask completely and shows you exactly who they've been all along. Choose wisely how you respond when they offer you that access. Most people think authority is about being loud. They couldn't be more wrong. This next detail changes how you view power forever. The wise fool, mastery, turning underestimation into power. Here's the paradox that makes this entire strategy so brilliant. By appearing to understand less, INFJs actually understand more. By seeming less strategic, they execute better strategy. By looking less threatening, they gain more influence. Every apparent weakness becomes a hidden strength. In a world obsessed with broadcasting intelligence, there's tremendous advantage in letting others feel smarter. While everyone else fights for the title of most knowledgeable person here, the INFJ quietly becomes the most informed through strategic invisibility. Think about influence for a moment. Obvious authority creates resistance. People push back against direct power. They question expertise that's too visible. But invisible influence? That flows like water, finding the path of least resistance, shaping everything it touches without anyone noticing the current. The INFJ who asks, "Can you help me understand this?" wields more power than the expert who declares, "Here's what you need to know." One approach invites collaboration and reveals information. The other shuts down communication and triggers defensiveness. This mastery requires perfect balance. Too much naivety, and people dismiss you entirely. Too little, and you lose the strategic advantage. The skilled INFJ walks this line with precision, appearing just confused enough to encourage explanation, while remaining just competent enough to be taken seriously. The protection factor runs deeper than social strategy. In a complex, overwhelming world, simplicity becomes armor. When you naturally perceive 17 different layers of meaning in every interaction, the naive persona creates breathing space. It allows selective engagement with complexity rather than drowning in it. But here's what separates mastery from mere survival. The advanced INFJ knows when to maintain the mask and when authentic revelation serves their goals better. They understand that some situations require their full intellectual firepower, even at the cost of losing their strategic invisibility. The deeper purpose emerges over time. This isn't just about gathering information or avoiding conflict. It's about creating space for genuine connection while filtering out those who can't handle depth. The people who consistently treat the naive INFJ with condescension reveal their character clearly. The ones who remain respectful and patient earn access to something extraordinary. This sophisticated social navigation isn't manipulation. It's adaptation to a world that often punishes genuine insight and rewards comfortable ignorance. The INFJ learned that being misunderstood on purpose is infinitely preferable to being misunderstood by accident. The ultimate advantage? While everyone else exhausts themselves trying to prove their intelligence, the INFJ conserves energy for what actually matters. They're not competing for recognition. They're building understanding, creating influence, and positioning themselves for moments when their insight can make a real difference. The power of being misunderstood on purpose cannot be overstated. Your perceived weaknesses are hidden strengths, waiting to be leveraged. Use your underestimated status as the ultimate competitive advantage in a world that mistakes noise for intelligence and performance for substance. If you want to continue the journey to understanding yourself or an INFJ in your life, click either of the following videos where we continue to unlock the secrets of the INFJ personality type.